In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this regular meeting of the Board of Adjustment of the Township of Franklin has been provided. Call the roll, please.
Anthony Caldwell.
Here.
Laura Grauman asked to be excused. Bruce McCracken.
Here.
Alan Rich, as well as Robert Shepard, asked to be excused. Gary Rosenthal.
Here.
Joel Reese.
Here.
Cheryl Bethia.
Here.
And Chairman Thomas.
Here. Minutes, regular meeting, September 5th.
I move to accept.
Second.
Anthony Caldwell.
Yes.
Bruce McCracken.
Yes.
Gary Rosenthal.
Yes.
Joel Reese.
Yes.
Cheryl Bethia.
Yes.
And Chairman Thomas.
Yes. No resolutions, no discussion items, hearings. Narindat and Karen Seepersod, ZBA 19-00026, applicants seeking certification of pre-existing non-conforming use for a two-family house at 104 South Lawrence Street, Somerset, block 171.02, lots 40-41 in the R7 zone, has been carried to November 7th, 2019. No further notification. Irving Patel, ZBA 19-00024, applicant requesting a C variance for construction of a single-family six-bedroom home at 441 Skillman Lane, Somerset, block 57.01, lot 24.02 in the agricultural zone, carried to December 5th, 2019. No further notification. First actual hearing would be the Muslim Foundation, ZBA 19-00016, application for D3 conditional use variance and site plan, in which the applicant seeks approval for the conversion of the 1.5-story, 1,319 square foot dwelling into a child care facility, the construction of a 425 square foot canopy, additional sidewalk at 4749 Cedar Grove Lane, Somerset, block 468.09, lots 3738 in R40 zone. Okay.
You don't need them, right?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is an application for a site plan approval to convert the existing dwelling that is on the property owned by the Muslim Foundation to a child care center. I have this evening 1, 2, 3, if Ms. Dolan appears, 4 witnesses that will testify. The reason I was not in the room, I was approached by counsel, Mr. Brancato, who represents an adjoining property owner, who indicated he had a concern because there was a history of members of the congregation parking on an adjoining property. I advised him, as a result of the previous approvals, that there is a fence that's going to be installed when the school is completed between our property and his property, and he asked if, in addition to the fence, we could put some signage up to keep our members of our congregation from parking on his property, and I indicated that we would be willing to do that. So, and that gets Mr. Brancato out of here pretty easy this evening. All right, I will call as my first witness Mr. Karazi.
Take that in your left hand, raise your right hand. Do you swear that this testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
I do.
Your name and address, please.
Alex Karazi, 14 Margaret Drive, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873.
Would you spell your last name for me?
Kharazi.
Thank you.
Mr. Karazi, you could be
Have a seat.
seated.
Okay.
Okay. You are a member of the congregation of the Muslim Foundation?
Yes, I'm the director and vice president.
Okay. And you testified when we appeared before the board the last 2 years regarding some improvements to the property, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we had an application a couple of years ago to construct a school and a new parking lot to the rear of the property?
That's correct.
And then we came back, I think it was last year, to amend that application to reconfigure the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
while we're here, can you give the board just an update of where you are with the construction of your parking lots and where you are with the construction of the school?
So the side work is almost completed. The parking lot, it's pretty much completed. They're going to be put in the base coat hopefully next week. And the school construction has started, and we are hoping to be completed within 2 years.
Okay. And the parking lot you had as a gravel parking lot, you've been using it for the day you have your religious services on Friday?
Correct.
Okay. To refresh the board's recollection, because it's relevant to the application we have this evening, when the school is constructed, that school will be a kindergarten through 8th grade?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you also have the mosque, and during the week, what activities take place during the daytime at the mosque?
So the main activity is on Friday, and it is usually between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock, about 2 hours. And during that time, we have about 100 to 150 people. They come to do their prayers.
Okay. And the rest of the week, other than that 2 hours on Friday, there are no activities at the mosque, is that correct?
That is correct, although on special occasion, we have some events, like 2 or 3 times during the year, and that's when we have basically all the activities, such as school will be closed and will be only religious events.
Okay. Now, there is a house at the front of the property at the present time, correct?
That is correct.
And we are proposing to convert that to a child care center.
That's correct.
Okay.
Daycare.
Daycare. And what ages?
2.5 to 4.
And how many students do you envision, or children do you envision having in there?
I think maximum 23,
Okay. And how many employees would you have?
2 to 3.
And your hours of operation?
Like any other daycare, it's 7 to about 6 p.m.
Yeah, so parents will come in the morning and drop their child off, and at the end of the day, will come and pick up their child. Is that correct?
That is correct. Usually the parents come between 7 p.m., 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. And actually, some of the parents going to be our staff at school, so they will be dropping and they go in just to park and do their teaching in school.
Okay. And the operation of the child care center, the children will be brought into the building by the parents, is that correct?
That is correct.
So operationally, a parent will come, use the parking spaces closest to the building, bring the child in, then leave and either go back to the school if that's where they're going, or go on their way to work.
That's correct.
Okay. The use of the facility itself, the interior, the first floor will be the child care center?
That's correct.
Okay, and the second floor will be used for what?
They're basically for the staff for lunch and lunch break, and they're no use for the children.
Okay. As part of the application, and Mr. Ford will get into it in a little bit more detail, and our architect will get into it in a little bit more detail, we are also proposing an outdoor play area, is that correct?
That's right. I think it's part of the requirements for daycares to have a place for children to play, and then we have that
Okay.
place.
And as a result of needing the play area, there would be the removal of about 5 parking spaces, is that correct?
That is correct.
Since you have now had the additional parking as a result of the previous site plan approvals, on Friday, which is obviously your biggest day, do you have sufficient parking on the site to handle the traffic coming to the mosque?
Yes, we do. We added about 40 to 45 additional parking as a result of the school construction. And right now, we may be using 10, 15 of them, so we have additional parking.
And then when the school is constructed, you testified in the previous hearings that you anticipate faculty of between 20 and 30 faculty members. And in your opinion, even though we lose the 5 parking spaces, based on what you see now and based on the number of employees in the school, in your opinion, will you have sufficient parking to handle that 2-hour period on the Fridays.
That is correct.
Okay.
We don't see any problem.
Okay. And then there is also one other part to this application. We are asking to put a canopy over the entryway at the school. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is just for the safety, improving the safety to prevent, especially during the winter, when we have freezing condition, we want to make sure that that's covered so students and the faculty can come into the building safely.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Do you have a kitchen, Alex?
No, not at the,
Alex,
I'm sorry, Gary, not in the
You have a
daycare.
You have no kitchen?
There's not going to, it's going to be basically one open space for the kids. No kitchen.
Anything else from the board?
Just one question. The house currently is, do clergy live in the house currently? What's
No,
the
we
current use?
don't. The clergy is not living there.
Okay. So, and the clergy they don't live on the site at all?
No, the clergy, because of his personal reason, he decided to live outside of the
Okay.
mosque area.
Okay. So the current building is just like office or storage?
So the second floor basically is just a storage. We don't use it much. And the first floor, we have a person is living there as a caretaker.
Okay.
And when we convert to daycare, he's going to be leaving. So nobody will be living there anymore.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else? We'll open to the public at the end.
Oh, actually, one more question.
Yes,
Just
sir.
to clarify, the gentleman who you spoke to, this is a site behind you? on
Behind, he
Welfare?
probably didn't see the construction. We already have put the fences, so he
Okay.
probably hasn't seen it.
For the record, and I know Mr. Brancato, his name is Mark Brancato, Brancato. He was here on behalf of Continental Resources, which is the property to the rear of us.
Okay, so it's not the property to the side, it's
To the
it's a
rear.
light
Yeah.
industrial office
Yeah,
development in the back.
evidently, when we did have insufficient parking, there were times that people who were coming to the Friday services would be parking in some of the lots along, that's World's Fair Drive. The fence, now we have put that up, and that was a concern. I spoke to Continental with our previous application and told them we would do that, but they figured they'd send council down, so.
So now they'd have to scale a 6-foot board-on-board
With
fence.
fence, right.
Okay.
Could you raise your right hand? Could you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Brittany Klim, Klimm, 350 Clark Drive, Suite 101, Bud Lake, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Okay, you can be seated, Ms. Clem. Ms. Clem, what is your occupation?
I'll sit over here because he has the plan.
Right.
Architect,
Okay, and you're licensed in the state of New Jersey?
yes,
And how long have you been so licensed?
about 10 years.
Go ahead.
Okay, and you're employed by the firm of Mr. Mystery?
Correct.
And Mr. Mystery's firm prepared the previous plans for the school, as well as you working with him have prepared the plans for the child care center, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. There is on the board, or on the side of me, a exhibit. One of the parts of the application, as I indicated, is a cover or over the entryway of the school. That is the cover on the plan?
Yes, this is the permanent canopy that will be added to the school if it's approved. As you can see, it covers the front stairs and provides some coverage from rain and snow for the main entry.
Okay, thank you. Now, with respect to the child care center, the exhibit that is now on the board that Mr. Ford put up on the upper left-hand side of the exhibit is the existing house that's being converted, correct?
Correct.
And what is the general condition of the house?
The general condition is good. The exterior will not be changing at this time. Well, actually, the exterior will not be changing, I should say. The interior will be where all the alterations are going on.
There will be some changes around the house to provide for handicap access, however, is that correct?
Correct. The main entry in the front will be made handicap accessible with an exterior ramp.
Okay. And also, we are providing to the, what would be the rear of the house, the play area for the children.
Correct.
Okay. And with respect to the play area, is that regulated by the state of New Jersey? Is there a mandatory requirement as to the size of that play area?
Yes, the requirement is 350 square feet for the first 10 children and 35 square feet thereafter for
Okay.
each additional child. We are
And-
meeting that.
And that's based on 23 children?
That's based on the 23 children, correct?
Okay, and we will have sufficient outdoor play area for the children?
Yes.
Okay. Inside the building, can you describe, and maybe Mike can blow up the floor plans?
The child care facility will be on the main floor. Most of the house will get opened up. On the left-hand side, it's mainly classroom. On the right-hand side, you have the vestibule entry with a secure entry, probably key fob or however they choose to lock this, obviously with allowing egress. And there's a sign-in area, a sick room, staff toilets, and as I said, most of the space is open classroom. There's also a direct exit from the classroom for egress in the rear, and some children's toilets.
And this facility was designed primarily to cater to children between the ages of 2.5 to 4, is that correct?
That's correct. And to answer Mr. Rosenthal's question before about the kitchen, they will only be heating food like microwave, so there's a small counter and sink provided, which the sink is a requirement by the state code.
Okay. And as indicated by Dr. Karazi, the second floor, the building has a second floor, is that correct?
Yes, it's a Cape Cod-style building, and the second floor will be a break room and an office and a bathroom, all for staff. No children on the second floor.
Okay. And again, since the first floor is the area that is being used for children, that also meets the state code requirements as to the adequacy of the space for the 23 children, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Will there be some perimeter lighting put around the building for safety and security once the building is completed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything from the board? I guess too, whether, I don't know that it's important or not, but you're actually having a self-imposed cap on your daycare enrollment.
Correct.
It's based on square footage.
Right.
That's the number that's allowed in that square footage by state requirements.
I understand. That,
Okay.
that just places a limit then on the number of kids.
Correct.
Instead of 25, it'll be 23.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you wanted to expand, you'd be back to us, and whatever the expansion plans are.
It probably would require an expansion of the building for
Yeah.
us to, yeah, so,
Within their existing square footage, this is
This is what can
their
happen.
number, yes.
Anything else? Okay.
Mr. Ford?
You swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Name and address, please.
Michael Ford, F-O-R-D, Van Cleef Engineering, 32 Brower Lane, Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Mr. Ford, you're a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Go on.
Okay, and Mr. Ford, just for the record, you prepared the original plans, the amended plans, and the plans that are before this board this evening, and you have testified in all the previous applications concerning this facility. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, can you bring up on the board your site plan?
Sure.
Don't make it smaller, make it bigger.
That's it.
Okay. Again, briefly just take the board through the site so they're familiar with what's there and then what we're proposing, both as far as circulation and the 3 buildings on the property.
Okay. The site has frontage on Cedar Grove Lane, 2 driveways, an entrance-only driveway and an exit on either side of the property. Immediately at the front of the property is an existing detention basin. The existing dwelling structure is adjacent to that detention basin. And then behind that is parking area, the main mosque building, and then the proposed school at the rear right-hand corner of the property with parking associated with that school next to that.
Okay. And the building that is the subject of the application this evening is the building closest to Easton Avenue, is that correct?
Right.
And the modifications that we are proposing to the site plan are in and around that building?
Correct.
Can you indicate to the board what the modifications are?
Yes. There'd be a new entry for ADA access to the building with a walkway leading to that entry. And then a portion of the existing, what is right now turf block paver parking area would be converted to, 5 of those spaces would be eliminated to make way for the outdoor play area immediately adjacent to the child care facility. And that really is the limit of the site improvements.
Is there any stormwater management required by this application?
No, there's an existing detention basin at the front of the property as part of the prior approval that was to be expanded to accommodate the additional impervious. And as a result of this application, because some of the existing parking, which was always considered as impervious, is now going to be converted to the play area, there's actually a slight decrease in the overall site impervious coverage.
Okay. And with this plan, there is no changes in the circulation in and around the site. There's the loop road around the perimeter, and then there's free access between the parking aisles, and one can travel freely between the parking in the front to the parking in the rear. Is that correct?
Correct.
None of that has changed?
None of those traffic patterns are being proposed to be altered in any way as part of this application.
Okay. And in the previous application, we needed a D3 use variance because the church and the school and our conditional uses within the zone, correct?
Correct.
And the reason we needed the variance is because we requested waivers or variances for not having buffer around the entire perimeter of the property,
That's
correct?
right. We didn't meet all the conditions.
Right, and the condition went to the buffer. With this application, are we changing the buffer at all? Is the buffer exactly what was proposed in the
Yes.
previous applications? And therefore, the variance that was granted by the board previously in any way is not changed by this application, is that accurate?
Correct.
You've had an opportunity, Mr. Ford, to review numerous staff reports that were generated in conjunction with this application.
Yes.
And I will go just list them because at the end I'm going to ask you if you can comply with each and every one of those reports, and I hope you will say yes. You've reviewed the report of CME dated September 16th, 2019.
Yes.
The Public Works has no comment. The Police Department dated October 1st, 2019.
Correct.
Sewerage Authority and dated September 10th, 2019.
Yes.
Mr. House's report dated October 14th, 2019.
Yes.
Patty Elliott's report dated September 20th, 2019.
Yes.
And Mr. Healy's report dated September 3rd, 2019.
Yes.
And with respect to any modifications, changes, or revisions to the plan, you can comply with all of the requested changes. Is that correct?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
I just have one concern,
Did you
and I don't know that it's his area. Just want, these are 2.5 to 4-year-olds, so they're not, parents aren't going to come and drop them off and leave in the sense, in other words, they're going to come in, they're going to park and drop the kids off. I just want to be sure that there's a free-flowing traffic flow to where these cars will go, and stop so that there's minimum queuing in the entrance driveway from the street, so that people know when they come in the driveway, they go directly to XYZ stop, and then they can take the child out, and they're not blocking the driveway, especially since there has to be some minimum conflict occasionally with the school traffic. Just so it's a, I
Yeah,
just want-
Ms. Dolan will deal with that, but
Okay.
we've accounted for it, and
okay.
Ms. Dolan will proffer
Or
that.
bring it on. Anybody else have
No,
We
same
comply with
question.
Mr. House's,
Yes,
that change?
yes.
anything?
Ms. Dolan?
Oh, yeah, just one question about the lighting. Did you update the lighting plan yet to show, because the lighting plan, the last set I reviewed, basically had the lighting for the whole site except this parking area.
Right, this is existing, lighting as part of the original mosque approval, and we'll include that lighting on an updated plan as part of this application. So we'll show what that is.
Okay, because it was originally just overflow parking for the mosque. Now this is going to be an active parking area going
Right,
to 6 o'clock. So
exactly,
it needs to be properly lit.
and we'll comply.
All right, thank you.
You swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Your name and address, please.
Elizabeth Dolan, Dolan, Dolan and Dean Consulting, 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey.
And she's still licensed, and we've seen her enough times.
I am still licensed, and my license is in proper standing.
Okay, and Ms. Dolan, you were the traffic engineer that prepared the reports in the prior applications and testified in the prior applications, is that correct?
Specifically the school, I think Gary Dean
Yeah.
handled the original mosque many years ago.
Okay, and you've heard the testimony of the proposed use of the conversion of the single-family dwelling to a child care center, and can you indicate from a traffic perspective, the impacts of that change, and also operationally, to answer Mr. Thomas's question, how it would function in conjunction with the rest of the facility?
Certainly. The analysis that we performed is summarized in a July 8, 2019 letter. And for a freestanding daycare with 23 children, we'd be looking at 10 vehicles entering, 8 exiting in the morning peak hour, and then the reverse, 8 entering and 10 exiting in the evening peak hour. Certainly that's well below the generation of the school and the mosque when it's busy. So it's a very minimal amount of traffic. And it doesn't take any credit for the shared activity. It's our understanding that some of the teachers in the school will have children in this daycare. So we've analyzed it, and the county had required, of course, an analysis of the driveway operation. We assumed that all of this traffic during the peak hours would be coincident with the school hours, which is really not going to be the case. They're going to have a little different operation. And the level of service analysis showed that the driveways would still function, even if we had 100% new activity coincident with the school activity. So the analysis shows that the driveways can function properly with this additional traffic. And as you've heard, the pickup drop-off for the daycare is over a few hours because there's no set start and end time like there is with the school. So it's a nominal amount of traffic, and it'll be coming and going over a few hour period in the morning and then in the evening after the school dismissal period. The circulation, as Mike Ford explained, isn't changing. We've got the parking area immediately adjacent to this building that'll be used by staff and parents, and we had talked about having the daycare staff park a little further away from the door so that we leave those spaces closest to the door for parents. They will park, they will take their children into or then out of the building and then come back. And based on studies we've done at daycares, that can be 5 to 7 or 8 minutes. Seven's about the average that we've counted. So there's certainly appropriate circulation for that to happen. And they'd be using the circulation aisle closest to the daycare building, leaving that big loop for any of the school activity. So I don't foresee, based on the volumes that we're looking at and the amount of turnover time, that there would be any problem with the interaction of this use with the balance of the site. And again, considering that there may be some crossover activity between buildings.
I'm only concerned that people don't come in the driveway, directly from the street, stop and take the child in and let the car in the driveway. I just
Oh.
want to be sure that they have,
Right.
that they know there's a place to go, so the driveway is always free.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that'll be an operational, and once people are signing up, they're going to get the information of the protocol, and you've heard about the door with the safety measures and so forth. But no, we wouldn't want any parking in the driveway, and I think that may have been, we can't have a blockage in terms of fire access or any emergency access either. The big thing that we talked about at the prior application was making sure we had enough queuing on the site for the pickup drop-off, and I think it's very generous, based on the design that we have. But no, we don't want to see anybody parking in the driveway. They're going to come into the parking spaces, and that's going to be the operation, walk the children in and out, and then return to the circulation aisle.
Okay, that's what I'm concerned about, that's all.
Yeah, I think operationally, we all are.
One question. What are the hours for the daycare center?
I think 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
That is correct. I think Mr. Crosby testified 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. And actually, those are both the opening and closing hours, if you recollect the testimony of the school, are before the school opens, and it's also pickup is after the school closes, because the school is from
9 to 3.
9 to 3.
Yeah.
So it's not even coincidental with the school.
Thank you.
No further questions of Ms. Dolan.
Two questions, Mr. Chairman. Just in terms of parking, so my report noted that there is no, in our ordinance, there's no parking requirement, and in those cases, the board can establish it based on industry standards. And the application indicates a parking requirement of 10. Can you explain how you got to that?
Well, I would have to I think it goes back to the capacity, and it was Mike's calculation. But I did run some numbers from the latest ITE parking generation, because I knew this was an interesting issue. Based on the building area, we'd be looking at 4, with a maximum of, it looks like 9, depending upon which rate and which ratio you use. Based on children, ITE would say 8 spaces max. And all the research that we've done, when I use the ratio, I come out to about 4 to 5, because again, they're not all coming at the same time. So the high end of everything that I've looked at ITE would be 8 for the size and the number of students at this facility.
And then as far as the traffic circulation, so when you look at the plan, it's one way in, obviously on the top.
Yes.
Everybody's going to come in from the top into the parking area, exit below to exit out the site. My question to you is, if somebody was to be dropping their child off in the child care and then going back to either the mosque or to the school, how are we going to prevent them from going, let's say, down and then making a right to get back into the site, and that'd be against the one-way traffic? I think as an overflow, I don't think that would ever happen, because everybody's going to be, they would park in the overflow and then just leave the site. But I have to assume some portion of the people using the child care are somehow, maybe they're dropping their younger child off at the child care and then dropping their older child off at the school. How do we make sure that doesn't happen?
Make sure that we don't have the shared trips?
No. They're going to come in on the upper parking lot.
And then they'll turn left into this.
Into, the black area, that's the parking
Correct.
lot. And then they're going to either exit that way, or they could exit down to, go down and make the right to go back into the school and the mosque. That'd be going against the one-way exit
flow.
drive.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
That?
Yeah, I think that there would be signage, and again, these are going to be regular users, so it's sort of that the introductory or sign-up time, there can be maps or little things to help the parents understand, but I think that we would want to have signage at I'll call it the south end of the dark parking lot on the rendered plan that's on the board, so that should say at that location, no left turn, because we don't want them. Oh, that's no right turn. No right turn. I'm upside down. That signage should be added to the plan.
Okay. Would you recommend any pavement markings to supplement that signage?
We would have the arrow to supplement. Yeah, you could put the pavement arrow so that it shows you only want people going in the one direction.
Okay. So you can add that to the site plan.
We can add those to the plans.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Signage and striping. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll open to the public. Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question or make a statement concerning this application? Okay, then we'll close to the public. Anything you want to add?
Just very briefly, I think this is the final piece to the puzzle for this facility, and the basis for the D3 variance was granted by the board previously. What we're doing here in converting this building doesn't in any way change that's not easy to say, the D3 variance. I would respectfully request that the board grant the variance plus the site plan approval.
Okay, any comments, questions from the board or motion? I think we need to include in the motion your conversation with the other attorney about the,
I think as a condition of the approval, we will put some signage on the rear of our property. I don't know what purpose it would serve, but based on my agreement with him, that would say that there's no parking allowed on the neighbor's property to the rear.
Please do not scale the fence.
Yeah, whatever.
okay, anything from anyone, including a motion?
I move to approve this variance with all the conditions that.
Okay, we really haven't many other, if any other, I don't know that we have other conditions, so.
They're going to add some signage and striping to the plan, and they're going to put some signage on the fence.
And show the lighting on the plan and comply with staff reports.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All the board?
Anthony Caldwell,
Yes.
Bruce McCracken,
Yes.
Gary Rosenthal,
Yes.
Joel Reese.
Yes.
Cheryl Bethia,
Yes.
and Chairman Thomas.
Yes, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, next application, Nestor and Victor Marin, ZBA 19-00027. Applicant seeks C variances in association with a two-family home with one 5-bedroom unit on the first and second floor and a 2-bedroom unit in the basement at 204 Franklin Boulevard, Somerset, Block 275, Lot 1.01 in the R7 zone. Okay.
I think I sent a letter asking that that matter be carried, and I think that matter was going to be carried to December 16th, 17th. No, yeah, but I sent a letter because my client is out of the state and Mr. Dumas is not available, and we asked it to be carried to your December meeting.
Okay, I'll make note of it. December, 19th?
December 19th, and I would respectfully request that the board carry it without further notice or publication.
Okay, we'll be hearing that as it's being carried to December 19th, no further notification. The next hearing would be Gina Ulrich, ZBA 19-00029. Applicant seeks a C variance for construction of a 24-foot round above-ground pool and deck at 209 Wilson Road, Somerset, Block 417.01, Lot 27 in the R40 zone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Lanford appearing on behalf of Ms. Ulrich. I will have Ms. Ulrich testify this evening as the only witness if we can have her sworn.
Could you take the microphone in your left hand and raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give should be the truth?
Yes.
Your name and address, please?
Gina Ulrich, ULRICH, 209 Wilson Road, Somerset, New Jersey, 08873.
Thank you.
You can be seated, Mrs. Ulrich. Gina, you're the owner of the property in question?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you owned the property?
About 7 years.
Okay. And who resides in the property with you?
My husband, Brian, and my daughter, Samantha.
And this is an application to construct a pool, and we're asking for a side yard variance for that pool. Is that correct?
Yes.
In the package that the board received, there is a aerial view that was provided by the TRC that shows your property, and does that accurately depict your property?
Yes.
Okay, and your property is how big? All right, I'll show you your survey.
I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
Your property is 100 feet wide?
Yes.
Okay, and it's 450 feet long, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a rather narrow and deep property, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you chose to come to the board to ask for a variance to put the pool in the location that's shown on the TRC report, is that correct?
Yes.
And that does require a variance because it is not 25 feet from the property line, correct?
Yes.
Why do you want to put it there?
That's the spot in our yard that gets the most sun, and it would not require us cutting down any trees if we put the pool there. Putting it in a different location would require us to cut down trees in our yard, and we do not want to do that. And it also would make sense in that location because it's the closest spot to our house as well. So we didn't want to have to remove any trees on our property. And like I said before, it's the spot in our yard that gets the most sun, so we figured it would be the best location.
Okay, and there are houses on either side of you, is that correct?
Yes.
And on the side that you're seeking the variance, and again, looking at the TRC report, there are many large trees between your property and the neighbor to your left, is that correct?
Yes.
Both on your property and on your neighbor's property.
Yes.
And also, the house to the left of you is closer to Wilson Road than your house, and there's a fairly substantial distance between the location of the proposed pool and the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Anything from the board? Open to the public. Is there anyone who'd like to say anything, ask a question, make a statement? Okay, then we'll close. Anything else?
Very briefly, this is a C2 variance. I think the preservation of trees is probably one of the reasons that we chose this location. It's an above-ground pool, and it will not impact anybody, and I would respectfully request that the variance be granted.
And there are no objections from any of the neighbors that are here tonight, so, or not here tonight. That's a statement in itself. Anything from the board? Motion?
I move that we approve the application for C variance for the construction of a 24-foot round above-ground pool and deck at 209 Wilson Road, Block 417.01, lots 27 in the R40 zone.
Need a second? Okay.
Anthony Caldwell,
Yes.
Bruce McCracken.
Yes.
Gary Rosenthal,
Yes.
Joel Reese.
Yes.
Cheryl Bethia,
Yes.
and Chairman Thomas.
Yes, good luck with it. Unfortunately, you probably got a long wait till you can use it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other business,
I move that we adjourn.
okay, and all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.